Hey guys, welcome back to our series, More Than a Hashtag, where we're talking about the topic of justice. Last week, we began a discussion with the simple theme of do something. You don't have to do everything, but you do need to do something. We were looking at Micah chapter 6, verses 6 through 8, and how, there are these traditions that we offer to God as sacrifice, and that we want to be in his good graces. But Micah, what he was trying to get to the people of that time was just like, you know what? That's great. But I think God wants people that love and that are merciful and that are gracious and that seek justice and want to walk with him. So we've got to do something. And because we're calling it More Than a Hashtag, we're taking a look at social media. And if you've been on social media at any point in time over the summer in 2020, and what a wild ride that has been. There are a lot of people that are mad online. I mean, mad online. Now, some people have a just cause to be upset. I was on Twitter this morning. It was terrible. Had to log off. Had to mute a few folks. Unfollow others just because I see people that are getting mad about things that don't really matter. And then in turn, I'm just like, why are you so upset? And then and it's just this cycle. You know what? I need to log off for a little while. But sometimes people get really upset and take it to social media about a cause that does require justice and about a cause that does need some grace and does need some mercy. And those are two words that I want to talk about today. I think when we talk about grace and mercy, sometimes we act like those are opposites. Well, if you're gracious, you can't be merciful. Or if you're merciful, you can't be gracious. But actually, those two things work together. The simplest way to understand grace is essentially getting a gift that you didn't deserve. When you receive something that you didn't earn or that you don't deserve or that you were unqualified for, that's an example of grace. Now, looking at mercy, mercy is essentially not getting what you do deserve. So if you were to, let's say, deserve a punishment and you were not given that punishment, that's an example of mercy. And there are countless examples through the life of Jesus. But we can actually just look at the cross to figure out what grace and mercy look like. If we look at my life, and I want to make this specific to me, I'm not going to put anything on you, but hopefully you can maybe identify a little bit. But I look at my life. Have I been able to earn an unending love? Have I been able to earn just a lifetime of forgiveness and faithfulness from the creator of the universe? No. That's a very quick answer. No. I haven't. I could never get those things, but that is a gift of grace that has been given to me by God and through Jesus. Now because of my life and just like my nature of just kind of being a dude, I've done a few sins in my day, and I'm guilty of a few things. And so you could say that I'm deserving of a punishment that is far less than eternal life or the gift of an everlasting hope or an unrelenting hope, as we've said around Cokesbury Church. That is an act of mercy, and that is an act of mercy through the cross, because what Jesus has done is he's bridged that divide. He's covered up my sins and granted me forgiveness and faithfulness and a hope of all being right in the world and being in a relationship with him. And those are gifts of grace and mercy. There's another story in Luke 7. It talks about a woman who wasn't very popular. Actually, she was a prostitute, so yeah, not a lot of people thought well of her. A lot of people thought ill of her and poorly of her. But, and I'm going to oversimplify. This comes from Luke 7, verses 36 through 50. I'm just going to tell you the story real quick. So we got this woman who's a prostitute, and she hears Jesus is in town, and she knows where he is. So she musters up all the courage that she can find and all the bravery that she has, every ounce of it, and she goes over to this house. And the house she walks into is just full of men that see her as a prostitute and immediately judge her. And immediately like, who's this? I mean, it's a bunch of, the law keepers and the uppity dudes that are better than everybody else. And they see this prostitute, and kind of we fast forward through the story just a little bit, and she falls at Jesus' feet and begins to weep. the thing about that is she doesn't wipe her tears with a shirt sleeve or, a kerchief or anything like that. Instead, she actually is weeping so much that she uses her hair to wipe up the tears and then to wipe Jesus' feet. She knows that there's something different about this man. She knows that she's lived a life and made a few decisions where she needs some grace, and maybe she needs some mercy for the life that she's lived, and she knows that she can find both of those in this man named Jesus. So she falls on her knees with her hair and with her tears. She cleans Jesus' feet, which is the ultimate act of service in that time. Jesus looks around and he's just like, I came to this house and none of you even were willing to pour oil on my head. But this woman has washed my feet. He looks around at all these people that kind of have their act together or whatever. And it's just like, you didn't welcome me into the home in the way that this woman did. We'll pick it up, the story, in verses 47 and 48. Therefore I tell you, this is Jesus talking, how many sins have been forgiven, as her great love has shown, but whoever has been given little loves little. And then Jesus said to her, your sins are forgiven. This woman saw grace and mercy personified in the man of Jesus, and she fell on her knees, and she wept, and she loved. She cared for him, and she just wanted to be with him. I think a lot of times I look around this world, and I accidentally put myself in the position of those leaders that were in that room, that I just assume that I've got my life together and that I don't necessarily have to seek mercy, but I think I need to be more like the woman is in this story, of seeking Jesus, of seeking out people that are gracious and merciful and loving what those are, because those are life-changing actions, those are life-changing people, those are life-changing decisions. This week we're going to continue these conversations, and if they make you feel a little awkward or uncomfortable, good. That's a good thing. We can grow from that. We can learn from that. So we're going to continue this conversation. We hope that you'll continue it with your small groups or with your families at home or wherever you may be. But Manna and Joshua have a few questions that they're going to answer to help you get started.
Hey guys, it's Manna and Joshua back with the discussion questions. We talked about this last week, that you guys are going to have an opportunity to meet with your small groups and go through a long list of discussion questions that are available on the resources tab on the app or on our website, cokesbury.tv/students. So last week we talked about justice, and justice is making wrong things right. And last week we talked about how we aren't called to do everything, we're just called to do something. And so this week we're going to go into something called mercy. And so Joshua, how do you define mercy?
I think the easiest way to define mercy is when we don't get what we deserve, like what we deserve. When we are forgiven for something that we have done or anything like that. Just when we haven't gotten what we deserve.
So we aren't punished.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I've heard people kind of compare it to grace before.
Yeah.
And how grace is this free gift that we give, or that we get from God, and mercy is not getting what we deserve.
Yes.
For what we've done.
Yeah,
so,
I agree with that.
I
agree with that.
The thing is, we're all sinners and we mess up all the time.
I feel that.
So often we deserve to be punished for what
Yeah.
we've done, and yet God offers us this mercy, through Jesus. So
yeah, and I think the main thing to focus on that with too, when we talk about God and mercy, is that God is a God that is motivated by love and mercy and grace, not by punishment. What God wants to see is us to be transformed in a completely new way, where we live a life of mercy and grace. And that's just how much He loves us and how much He wants to see us grow, and not to punish or anything like that.
Right. So instead of punishing us, He offers this mercy so that we can do something different.
Yeah.
And transform, through that in different situations. So,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So because He offers us mercy, He's calling us to offer mercy to others, which is not always an easy thing.
No, it's not. It's hard.
Yeah, and I think it's hard because people are just mean.
Yeah.
Why do you think people are so mean?
That's something that like I ask myself a lot, and I just take it back to when I was younger, and I mean like I'm still really guilty of this today, but I remember I would make fun of my sister a lot in front of our friends and her friends, and the thing is I thought I was being really cool by doing that because like if you think you're making people laugh or you feel like you're elevating yourself to a higher position or something like that. But in reality, that's not what it is at all. It's just completely hurting someone and just hurting their feelings or just ruining their day too.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I cannot say I'm sorry enough to my sister for that.
Yeah. I found I was often mean to my parents.
Ooh,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm the oldest of 4, so I was mean
Yeah.
to my siblings.
Yeah.
But I have found myself apologizing to my parents for just being a not nice kid.
I did that the other day.
Just wasn't. It's like, why was I such a jerk to you? And I think some of that comes from now that I'm a mom. I'm like, oh man, that one hurt.
Yeah.
When my kids are mean to me or something like that. Unfortunately, I see it so early. I mean, I've got 3 girls. They're
Yeah.
all under the age of 7 or under. And I mean, there are times when they are just mean to each other, and that's just hard to watch.
I mean, yeah, that happens.
But when
It's
my
bad.
kid gets off the bus, for example, and says that somebody is mean to her, I mean, I'm ready to punish that kid. Like, my instinct is, my mama heart just goes, don't be messing with my kid,
Mama bear instinct.
Exactly. And so our initial instinct is not to offer mercy. It is that punishment mode. At least I find for me it is. I automatically go into, you need to be punished for what you deserve. And that's not what God's calling us to do.
Yeah.
And that is so hard. So what are some simple ways, I guess, that we can offer
Yeah.
that we can offer mercy when our instinct is not to offer mercy? How do we do that?
Yeah, I remember too, any of you gamers out there, when you're playing on Xbox Live or the PS4 network, all your friends are trash talking you hardcore online. It gets really bad.
I'll take your
It
word for
hurts.
it on
Yeah,
that
it's
one.
not fun. It's not fun
No.
times. It's hard. And when they say something mean, one of the ways to show mercy is acknowledging that what they said to you, if they hurt you or they just said anything wrong for that matter, not acknowledging that it is okay they said that, but acknowledging that there was hurt involved and that it was not okay to do that, but showing forgiveness if they try to apologize or something like that. And I remember that would happen all the time, and I've been on both sides of that. And
The trash talker.
yeah,
and the
and
one to be.
yeah, because you feel like, back to the whole being mean thing, you feel like you're being empowered when you're doing that, but in reality you're more empowered when you show mercy to someone. You're more in control and more just showing the love of Christ like that.
Right.
That's
And-
what true power and justice is.
And it's so much bigger. Like, I always tell my daughter, you've got to be the bigger person, which
Yeah.
at 7, she doesn't necessarily quite understand that. But telling her, we don't know what's going on in that kid's life that makes them want to be mean to you.
Yeah.
But the best thing you can do is just to be kind to them. And, sometimes being kind means walking away. But sometimes it means just being kind and saying kind words. And like you said, forgiveness. Because I
Yeah.
think that's such a huge part of mercy.
Yeah, that's really good points right there. So some of the challenges that we want to have for you guys this week as you go into your small groups and just really start the rest of your week, what are ways that you can show mercy? What are some ways that you can practically show mercy, whether that's showing forgiveness to someone that maybe has hurt you, or just loving your neighbor, just going out, doing something nice for them? Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Hey, what's going on, guys? We have a very special guest with us today. You may recognize him from being around Cokesbury Church. He is a small group leader for some of our high school dudes. Yeah, they're in high school now. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah. He is Luis Mata, but you may recognize him by the name of Roy. Roy, how are you, man? How's it going?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much. Super honored and humbled to be here with you today and to talk to all the people watching. And yeah, man, super excited. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you. It is, it's a pleasure. And you are a great guest because this whole series, More Than a Hashtag, we're talking about how we're just going to talk about some social justice issues and social injustices, specifically And you have a very cool job. Do you care to explain that for us? And then people are immediately going to understand why you're part of this.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So right now, I'm currently working at an immigration law office. So what we do is we reach those clients who are of the most vulnerable, who can't really access or don't have the access to the resources for a like private attorney or things of that nature. And we try to do our work the best we can, um, at lower costs, and just really trying to include these folks who, have been placed in situations where they can't have these resources and don't have the access to these resources. So specifically, what we do is we work to provide these individuals um, who oftentimes are undocumented or are trying to seek a different route in their immigration status.
Mhm.
And we try to provide them with an immigration benefit and essentially try to find a pathway to citizenship for them.
Gotcha. Wow. I mean, it sounds like what a great service you're doing
I
and for
love
you. Yeah. And you said a word that really caught my attention. You vulnerable people. So what does that look like? Like how do you notice a vulnerable person? Are you more of a firm where you seek out vulnerable people just kind of by word of mouth, or do people reach out to you? How's that connection get formed, or that relationship, I guess?
the term vulnerability. I think that it has a lot to do with resources, and then the access to these resources, whether it be, you know, um, systemic injustices or, situations that happened in throughout their lives that um, have kind of molded them to be in these situations and needing a little bit more help than some.
Hmm.
Um, Oftentimes these groups or these folks are in groups that are marginalized or oppressed more so compared to others. And something that I really um, like to emphasize is the fact that the whole notion of like speaking for the voiceless.
Okay.
And although that is a great like a great quote or like a great statement that oftentimes is um, uh, expressed in social justice matters and stuff. Um, Something that I've really found and find really interesting is that everybody has a voice, but some are set to lower volumes than others. And for example, like the clients that we see are those individuals whose volumes have been set at even lower volumes than most. And we're there to kind of be able to amplify that
Mm.
and be able to give them, not even give them, we don't see it as like a rescuing type thing. We see it more as like, here's a step, and we want to empower these folks to be able to while amplifying their voices and being able to assist them with the resources that they don't have access to. That's more so what we're here to do.
That's a powerful thing right there. And I love that it's not, they're not like everybody's got a voice. Just, some volumes are just a little bit lower. So see, like you just taught me something. Like maybe I need to change the way that I'm thinking and the way that I talk, because I've definitely used that phrase before. But maybe there's just
Yeah.
a more accurate way of describing what's going on. But you've used some action phrases, like you turning up the volume, or being an advocate for, or people that are paying attention to the Black Lives Matter movement right now. There's a lot of talk about being an ally. Throughout the series, we're talking about doing something or being able to act justly. So if you could, is there an action step that a person like me could take to help be a voice in a situation with like a situation similar to the ones that you work with every day?
Absolutely. That's an awesome question. So I think that the very first step in this line of work, or in this, I wouldn't even call it a lot of being a decent human being. The first step would be to have a self-reflection of yourself and check like how your own biases like affect your daily life, um and to basically veer to kind of stray away from this idea of being not only just like I'm gonna be not racist, but I'm going to actively be anti-racist.
Mhm.
And you can kind of take that idea and mold that in different ways. You can, instead of being complicit and saying that, oh, I'm not racist, you can say I'm going to actively be anti-racist through. And how can you do that, you might ask? And I think that the biggest things are educating yourself on what it is that you want to advocate for or become an ally to, um, and being part of these spaces, being part of these dialogues and conversations that are happening. um it's a privilege to say that you are just not going to be, like, I'm not going to pay attention to that, like that's something that I'm like, it's not affecting me, so I'm not going to care. That's a, like, that's a privilege that these, like, marginalized and oppressed groups don't have the option to be like, oh, well, because of the color of my skin, I'm just going to change the color of my skin and just, be like, okay, it doesn't affect me. You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
privilege to say that, that it doesn't affect you, or that you're not going to be involved in these conversations. So, and that's funny that you say like more than a hashtag, because that also means that it's more than a moment.
Mhm.
It's not just right now, like this hashtag is trending, Black Lives Matter, or any iteration of a social justice hashtag, or whatever that might be, but that's all it is. It's just a hashtag, and
Mhm.
but although it is just a hashtag, that doesn't mean that it's just one moment. It has to be a continuous process, a continuous fight. It's not just in this time, it's in this time and every day thereafter.
Mhm.
Right now, this is a big issue happening right now, and um but what about a year from now? Like, where will we be? Will we still be having these conversations, you and I? That fire that we feel, and like that energy, like, will this energy still exist a year from now? And that's the importance, that it has to be a continuous process and a continuous journey. Absolutely.
Roy, we could talk about this, man, forever. Again, I want to thank you for jumping on for a few minutes and sharing a little bit of your story and what you're doing. And I'm proud to call you a friend. Um, so
You
yeah,
too, man. You too. That's awesome.
yeah,
Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been great, and I'm so honored that that you considered me for this, and that's awesome, man. Thank you so much.
all right. Thanks so much. Well, guys, thanks for special thanks to Roy for joining us today. Thank you for watching, and tune in next week for more of our More Than a Hashtag series.